The Second World War is something we must never forget, to make sure it never happens again. Yet it's a subject today's children know little about. Since the number of people that have witnessed the Second World War is slowly decreasing, and fewer grandparents and parents can tell their children about it, it's essential we keep finding ways to keep the story alive. 13 at War tries to tell children about the Second World War, not as a boring history lesson, but involving them in how it would have been to live as a child during that time. 13 at War was able to do this, not only through a television series, but by fully using the interactive abilities of the internet in getting the story across. In 13 episodes of 20 minutes each, the program tries to explain the most important subjects of the Second World War.
Adolf Hitler.
But instead of emphasizing on historical facts as is done so often, the program emphasizes the personal experiences of children that lived during the war. Each episode tells the dramatized story of a child that was 13 years old somewhere during the war. Looking at the war through their perspective makes it easier for the children of today to imagine what it was like.
Wat is gebeurd?
Next to these stories the children can relate and emotionally connect to, historical footage was added, not only putting the drama in a realistic context, but also making the archived material come to life again. The story of the program is told through a presenter they can identify with, told on the locations it actually happened, bringing the whole thing into the here and now. Because 13 at War was made for an audience of multitasking media users, as our children are today, television and the internet play an equally important role. On the 13 at War website, children can not only watch the different episodes and lots of extra backstage material explaining how the series was made, but it also optimally uses the interactive power of internet to stimulate children to not only consume the information, but to think about the Second World War.
Weer mis.
To realise this, 13 at War uses the power of learning by gaming, and a unique 13 at War game was made. The game tries to intensify the TV programme, as the programme tells the stories of 13 children growing up during the war to involve the viewer. In the game, the viewer can experience for themselves what life was like during the war. The game is designed as an interactive story with one goal: to find your father, who got lost during the bombings of Rotterdam. The game exists of 13 levels. Every week, after the TV episode, the next level is opened. The content of each level has a direct link with the subject of the matching episode on television. The story literally continues on the internet. Every week, the player is challenged to achieve a new goal that will eventually lead to finding your father. For example, finding a hiding place for a Jewish refugee, or deliver a secret message to the leader of the resistance. This goal can be achieved by talking to characters in the game world, examining the items and objects you come across, or by reading the information about the war very carefully, and that way learning additional things about the war. The main emphasis of the game is on the difficult choices people had to make during the war. The player is confronted with dilemmas that force them to think about what they would do in wartime situations. Would you give the only medicine you have to a German soldier in order to get the information about your father? Would you take something from a house left behind by murdered Jews? And what if it could help to save others? Every choice the player makes has a consequence for the rest of the game. It really determines the course of the story. So by using the interactive power of a computer game, by getting children actively involved in the matter, we try to make them think about the dilemmas of wartime. And with that, we invite them to put themselves in someone else's shoes. Never before were television and internet used together in this way to help children relate to this unimaginable page in history and create a more layered awareness about the Second World War.